So you have a number of stories on the ER show. How many times have you been on there?
9. So
Do you have a favorite one? Or?
Well, I'm a star, okay, because you need to remember I'm on the same channel that Honey Boo Boo was on, okay, so let me tell you
If
that.
anyone remembers Honey Boo Boo.
That's the caliber of stardom you've got right here, okay? Those are your friends. My favorite is probably the Coleman stove story.
Oh my goodness,
yes,
that's
and it's actually the most watched episode, the most downloaded, the most commented on, the most viewed, the top favorite. I don't know, there's all these different categories. And, and you all can check it out on YouTube. It's about a guy who his girlfriend dares him to put his junk in a hole of a Coleman stove, and it got stuck, and he had to come into the emergency room.
We could not believe it when we saw that.
Same here. I felt the same way. And
you actually saw it happen?
Yes, and I was much younger. I was not married. I was like,
so this goes back a ways.
Goes back a long ways, and it's like, I've had a wonderful career. I'm 60 years old. I plan on working another 10 years at least. And I have had, truly, I've been able to take care of patients from all levels, all walks of life, and hopefully save lives and, delivered babies. I was at Beverly Hills Supper Club. I was at Hurricane Katrina. I worked at Air Canada plane crash. This wonderful career, but mainly what I'm known for is a guy that's the nurse that took care of the guy that put his junk in a stove. Truly, like, wouldn't my parents be proud? It's like...
They're probably laughing right now.
It all comes down to that. It's like, wow. But you know what? I'll take it. The guy, little did I know how far...
Made you a star.
Oh, yeah, right. Little did I know how far-reaching that story... And sometimes you'll see on 60 Minutes or... like 2020, where they interview nurses and doctors that worked during 9/11, or they've even interviewed people who were on when President Reagan was shot, and then even nurses and doctors from Parkland when President Kennedy was shot, and they talk to them. Sometimes at the hospital, I'll go by and they'll go, "That's Terry Foster. He was on for the Coleman stove guy." I'm like, oh yeah, I'm right up there with historical events or something. It just cracks me up. Like that's what I'm known for. So I think that story should be told at my funeral mass or something.
Maybe.
I don't know, but it is kind of funny. But there's worse things to be known for. There really are. So I'll take that anytime. I really will.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't funny to them. But.
It wasn't funny, but I do remember, thinking that night, and as I said, I'm trying to think how old I was, and I was in my early 20s. I remember thinking, this is truly one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen. And then the cascade of events that went with it and stuff that, with different people's responses and reactions were I just remember thinking, I didn't think this was a historical moment, but I just remember thinking, this is truly one of the most unbelievable things I've seen. So I guess I could have retired right then, because I've never seen anything like that. Exactly, at 40 years later, but seen things in equal par. Just that where you just want to say to people, what were you thinking? How did you think this would work out? And what kind of judgment are you using here or whatever? But if it wasn't for people who do stuff like that, I would not have a job. I truly wouldn't. And there wouldn't be 9 episodes of Untold Stories of the ER, And 2 sets sent me to the ER also. So you didn't know I was on there, did you?
No.
So you're impressed, aren't you? And a little creeped out, I can tell. Yeah, that one was... I've done 2 of those.
I didn't see those.
Yeah, well, they're actually pretty tame, but they show them with 2 other scenarios, and the other 2 scenarios were a little uncomfortable. They're obviously not, pardon me, graphic. Of course, they say it doesn't air until after 10, because no children ever watch TV after 10 p.m. So that's their disclaimer. But yeah, I've done 2 of those too.
So the Supper Club, was that a national story that happened here in Cincinnati?
Are you not from here?
No.
Is this back about you again?
No.
Where are you from, Bonita Brockert?
No, I'm from Amish country, Pennsylvania, but
Oh.
my husband obviously knew that story, and I've heard many interviews. There's a book, I guess, now about,
Yes.
about
Mhm.
that. Were you in training at the time?
Yes, good memory. Have you been snooping on my page?
Well, yes, of course.
You have, because I get the notifications. I saw those today. She did her homework, so we got a Barbara Walters here. I'm just saying. But yes, I was in nursing school, and I went over there. I also ran on Taylor Mill Life Squad, where I lived at, and I went over there in my car because the squad had already left and stuff, and there was no 275. Then you had to
really?
you had to go down, like, I think I went down through Newport and then up like Licking Pike or something, and then over to Mock Road, and anyway, and parked somewhere, and a policeman wasn't going to let me through, and he saw I had a hospital sticker on the car, so he believed me when I said I was a nursing student. And so I climbed up the hill, and there's all kinds of squads and fire trucks and people walking around everywhere. And I got to the top of the hill, and do you want me to tell this? Is this okay?
Yeah.
And I looked over, and I saw like these 10 people kind of laying there, all dressed up really nice. I think they were from a wedding. And I thought, well, isn't that weird? What are they doing just laying there? It just didn't, the synapse didn't fire.
You knew there had been a fire.
Yeah, the fire's going on,
Yeah.
but they weren't burned at all. They were all just laying there. And then I realized they're dead. And
Smoke.
and I guess smoke inhalation, but they didn't have the soot on them. You know, they had a little bit. And at first I actually thought maybe some of them were black, like African American or whatever, because of the tone of their skin, but I think it was a little darker. And I realized, oh my gosh, this is awful. Like they're just laying there unattended. And I remember one lady she had on this like lilac dress, and she was propped a little bit like up next to another person, and she had hang down earrings, and with the wind they were kind of moving. I will never forget that. Yes,
Yeah.
and just that, like,
Mind.
how pretty she looked, not thinking like this was like her last night or whatever. And I mean, she was probably my age now, maybe 60 or whatever, and she had a corsage on too, so she was like maybe a mother of the bride or grandma, I don't know. And so they said something about they had medical people in the back, and so it was chaos. You know, there's just people everywhere. And I had never been to Beverly Hills before, and so I went it was a pretty big building. It was mainly 1 or 2 floors, and I walked all the way around the back. And what I very well remember is people yelling out a name, like trying to locate somebody, and just, you know, yelling like, you know, Jane Smith, like just going around and yelling. And I know they were yelling for people, and some of those names stuck with me. And then obviously I later saw them in the list of the dead, and I remember like somebody yelling that name. And then when I went around the back, there was like a wedding chapel back there, obviously, where they had wedding ceremonies, and there was this kind of lawn that had like some Grecian kind of statues and stuff. And I looked, and there were probably 100 people laying there dead, and it just,
oh my goodness.
And they weren't burned, but the women, and this really disturbed me, was this is when like a lot of women wore dresses. It was May 28, 1977. They had pulled their dress up over their face. And so you could sort of, you know, they were in their underwear, they had stockings on, and that kind of bothered me, but you couldn't tell who they were. But I'm like, they're laying there and they're dead. But that was apparently somebody, the coroner or somebody had done that to sort of mark this person was pronounced dead, just to make sure there wasn't somebody missed or whatever. But that really, really bothered me. And I just did whatever I could. I helped some people like to cars and stuff, that no cars could come up there.
You were there on your own then? You didn't go with the
Yes.
squad?
Well, and I met up with my squad people. As a matter of fact, a nurse friend of mine who actually, she still works as a nurse, and she's probably about 80 now. She works in a doctor's office. We just talked about this recently, and I said, I remember seeing you that night, and just like, we just said, oh my God, isn't this awful? And then that's just all you could say. And then you just went to work. And I left there probably about midnight and went to the hospital. And then Rita stayed there, I think, until probably 4 in the morning, and they helped load bodies onto refrigeration trucks. And then they wanted nurses to help at the Armory, which was in Fort Thomas, which was real close to where Beverly Hills was. And that's where they took the bodies. And they, you hadn't seen anything like that in this area before, so they had them all in this Armory, and they had them laying on a sheet, and then had a sheet over them. And they had the nurses go through to see if they had if they were burned, if they had like a watch on or a wedding band, any identifying factors, a belt buckle, a necklace, glasses, anything like that they would bag those up, and that helped with identifying things. But sometimes they literally would bring families in there to view somebody, because not everybody was burned beyond recognition, which is, I know it's a disturbing topic, but this is 40 years ago. Forensics is so advanced now, but that's kind of what they had to do. And the thing I think about today, I was only 19 years old. I was 19 and a half. And I just think about today, I don't know if I'd be in therapy or what, but I mean, we went to school on Monday. This happened on Saturday night. I went back to nursing school on Monday, and the hospital had all kinds of patients from the fire there. So we gave people these Bennett treatments because they had a lot of lung scarring and tracheal burns, upper airway burns, and things like that. So all the students, we all got good experience with that, which is an awful way to say, but
doors locked?
several
Doors
were locked, but also they had very limited fire exits. And they were in this one big room, which I believe was the cabaret room, and the fire had smoldered for quite a while, and they were doing a comedy act. They were an opening act for, do you know who John Davidson is?
Mm-hmm.
He was the big singer, and like in the 70s, he was a big singer. And the room had, I don't know, it had like 1,000 or 2,000 people in it. And an opening act was a comedy act, and there was a busboy whose name I think was Walter, and he was only like 17, and he came up on stage and said, I'm very sorry, but there is a fire and you all need to get out. And the people thought it was part of the act. I know.
Oh, I never heard that.
And he kept saying, no, this is really serious, like there's a fire. And he's trying, would you think about a busboy to do that? He did save lives, but apparently a lot of people didn't do anything, and then all of a sudden the smoke just kind of came barreling in. Yes, and there were, I think exits were locked, but I think the main thing is there weren't enough exits. And the walls and the structures in the building had polyvinyl chloride, which is like a synthetic fabric that's not made anymore, because when that burns, it gives off a horrible gas that you inhale. So some people who survived the fire died of lung or liver complications because of that chemical could be processed in their body, which is really scary. But like if you go in a room in a hall or something and you see a white sign with red lettering that says this hall can hold 150 people, something like that, that is a result of the Beverly Hills Supper Club fire. Yes, because they made that mandatory to have and also fire exits, but also that's a maximum capacity in that room. That's since the Beverly Hills Supper Club fire. Yeah. I'm full of it. Knowledge.
That we know.
Yes. I had to make light of a subject here any minute, because it was awful. It was, but it was just one of those things. And everybody in Northern Kentucky knew multiple people who were in that fire. My brother's teacher and her husband were killed in the fire. We knew people. There were some families, like for weddings and celebrations, where like 10 people in a family. There was extinguished. Their entire existence was gone. There were even people that they didn't know who to settle estates with, because their families were just wiped out. So it's very, very, very sad. So, yep. bad stuff. But it's, you learn in this job, every day is a gift, every single day. And you can never take anything for granted at all. And it's things like that remind you, no one going to that supper club that night thought they were going to lose their life. No. Very sad.
So you must have seen a lot of advances in technologies
Everything.
in your time. I mean, when you started, there wouldn't have been anything on computers.
No, it was all handwritten. When I started, there was never anything that no one knew anything about AIDS. I remember in '82 or '83.
Was it only in the '80s that you actually
knew about it? And I remember 2 nurses from our hospital, from Mercy at the time, went to a conference and they came back and you had to give like an update at meetings and stuff, and they were talking about what they learned, and they said, oh, there's a thing where gay men are dying from mono. They get mono and they die. And we're like, what? And they said, yeah, and it's mainly like in LA and in New York, but it's in other areas of the country. And it's like, what? How do they figure it's a gay man who dies from mono? And they're like, I don't know. And I remember hearing that because it is kind of like a mono, how it starts out, but obviously, very deadly and stuff. And, where we say HIV now, it used to be HTLV3 is what they called that. That was the organism or whatever that they identified. So to see that, and then all the isolation things, the bioterrorism stuff, which is kind of scary, that was never heard of, anything like that at all. We had, when you think of like, people didn't have a choice. I mean, if they, today you can say, wow, if I don't like St. Elizabeth, I can go to Christ, or I can go to Good Sam, or I can do this or do that. A lot of people didn't realize they had any choices in health care. People didn't realize they had any say in what they're doing. We used to give patients, here's a pill, go ahead and take this. We didn't tell them what it was or what it was for. And I'm not saying that was good.
No, but there's still a lot of people that won't ask.
Won't ask.
Say, well, what are you taking for that? Oh, I don't know.
Right. It's a little blue pill, or no,
Yeah.
we know what that is now. So, but they'll say it's a little white pill, and oh, my doctor knows. And you call their doctor, and he's like, who is that patient? I don't know. But most of it is online. But we do have to obviously do what we call medication reconciliation, where make sure that 2 doctors are not prescribing the same thing, or that they're not on one drug to counteract the other, and they could be off both of those. And what did they take? I mean, we have all of that. All the information is online. We have access to that. But I mean, the technology. When I first started in the emergency department, we had 2 heart monitors. So, if we had heart patients, you could put them on that monitor. Well, if we'd have, this is not good, we'd have 2 heart patients on a monitor, and then a cardiac arrest would come in. I literally would go and go, you're doing better, we need this, and just take them off and go down the hall with the new monitor. So in our monitor was, one of our main ones was probably the size of, I would say, like a dishwasher in a kitchen. It was like this big square thing, and we had to turn it on so it could warm up. And it warmed up like a TV. It had the little dot and stuff. It was a green screen, and it had a fan in the back so it wouldn't overheat. That was our monitor. And now, like at Edgewood Emergency Department, I think we have 50 beds. Every bed is monitored. Yes. I mean, the technology is incredible, and it should be. We have that so much. Like, IVs are all on a pump now, and it's programmed in there. If you're on, some kind of drip dopamine, it tells me how much to give, and I double check that. Where before we ran them and we kind of timed them with our watch and opened or closed a little bit, and so it's phenomenal. And I've had a front row seat to that, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that is interesting. It's like watching the NASA years ago.
Yes.
The size of the computer room.
Yes.
And all that data.
Yes.
Is now something that small.
But isn't that what they say about like an iPhone, that years ago that's what all that information is what was like at NASA or something?
Yeah.
Or you kind of just said that?
No, I did just say that, but
I'm just reiterating what I was interpreting. Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about your little brief dancing.
Yeah.
Not career, I guess, but escapade.
I just want it to be known, I dance so good when I'm drinking, okay? And I sing even better, okay? So, Run Around Sue is my go-to karaoke drinking song. So, no, but actually somebody at the hospital at the time was on the Cincinnati Arts Association committee, and they said...
I'm always interested in how you get
Yes, yeah, sucked into that.
sucked into that, nominated, encouraged.
Yes, yeah, all the above, voluntold, those kind of things. Well, I actually, she approached me. It was Jane Mary Tenover, who was our vice president for the foundation. She said, I'm on this committee, and she said, I think you would be really good for this Dancing for the Stars thing. And I'm like, I don't know how to dance. And she was like, that's kind of the
That's
point.
all the,
Yeah. I go, so to make a jackass out of myself. And then she said, it's kind of for this. And she said, it's for art education, for especially for underprivileged children, where you expose them to things like the symphony, museums, art appreciation, all those kind of things, dance, whatever. And I was like, that's pretty cool. I would support that. And she said, you know, they will not make you look like a fool. You'll be with a partner. And I was like, okay. So I was assigned to Desiree Manus, who scares the living hell out of me every time I look at her. I don't like her, but I have to act like I do. And no, she was wonderful. She was so good. I just always say, I'm so glad I'm your friend, Desiree. Like, I don't want to ever make you mad. But we had a really good relationship with it. And she was good about, you know, encouraging me, but also guiding me. This works. And she had it all, which I'm sure you do this too. She had it all that worked out in her head how to do it and stuff. And that just impresses me, that she knows what my routine is, and then after I'm gone, you know, an hour later, she's dancing another routine with somebody else. How that all works is very impressive.
It's just like you handling
I
patients
truly,
totally differently, what they need.
I guess so. I never thought of that. And so anyway, so I competed, and I didn't win. I was a loser. Okay, I didn't even come in third. We did buy 2 tables, so we did support the art education, and I had so much fun.
What was your dance that year? Was that
the rumba? Yeah, and it was just great fun, and I really enjoyed working with the committee and things like that. And Phil Shore, who was the chair, said, they asked him to be the chair, and he said, I will, but he said, I would like one thing, I would like for Terry Foster to be on this committee. And so obviously he was drunk when he said that. So so I joined the committee, and I've been on the committee ever since. So that's been actually almost 10 years. And they do most of the behind the scenes work. Deb Morgan and Jake, and it was Kevin before that, do great work for that. And we sort of help them out, help them with, I don't know, sponsors, gifts, you know, whatever, work the crowd, make sure it's okay for everybody that night, but help with the meet and greets and those kind of things. And it's a great night. I have so much fun there. And there's a lot of regulars. There's a lot of dancing groupies there. Yeah. You know that. And but it's just great. It's really, really a lot of fun, and I'm happy to support it every year, very much so.
And you've done the judging a couple of years too.
Yes, and actually I did the judging one year, and Drew Lachey sat next to me, and when we were done, he was like, you are about the funniest person I have ever met in my life. I'm like, I'm just who you want for your ER nurse, right? Somebody cracking jokes while you're having the big one there. And he was like, that would be good. And I thought, coming from him with his show business background, that would be great. So that was a nice compliment. But I just like to have fun. And I'm the one who, I love the dance part, but I was up there with professional dancers, but then I'm giving my opinion, you know.
Yes, but you always gave it with comic effect.
Thank you. Every time I say, I thought I was at the Goldberg bar mitzvah. I don't know how I got up here, you know, and they're like, what? So I like to do that. It's a lot of fun. And I think they like the serious part, and then a little bit of irreverence there and stuff, and just a little bit to add to it. But I do have fun with that every time. So I think I judged 2 or 3 years, and then
times,
and I'm glad for them to kind of rotate that a little bit and stuff. So because of pressure, you know. And if I am a judge, I can't be bought. Okay, I want that word out there. Okay, I got a wedding to pay for with my daughter coming up here.
Oh, how
so
soon is that?
not for a long time,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty sure she's. Oh, I don't know. This is going to be on tape. I think she's met the guy. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I really do. So yeah, no, he's like.
It's not an arranged marriage.
Well, maybe. Okay, we do live in Kentucky. Okay, so it's not a family member. That was hard. So no, but he's a wonderful guy and stuff. So I probably shouldn't have said this on here. She'll die if she sees this, but he could not be a better guy. So and that's a good thing. She's my only daughter. You know, she's my only child that I know of. And
you have to add that on there.
yeah, this is going south, isn't it? No.
Well, that does happen.
Yeah, not in this life, but yeah, it does.
So your responsibilities now are not just in the ER.
Mm-hmm.
What's your job consist of?
I have a dual role at St. Elizabeth. I am clinical specialist for the emergency departments. We have 5 emergency departments ready to serve you now. And I'm also an ambassador for the foundation for St. Elizabeth, which my role there is I am in charge of the Vision program, which is our employee contribution campaign to the foundation, which the employees have a phenomenal history of support for St. Elizabeth projects in years past, like the breast cancer center at St. Elizabeth, the hospice center, the Heart and Vascular Institute was our most one of our most recent campaigns. 80% of our employees supported that campaign, which is phenomenal that they give back. But who better to give back to than your employer?
Mm-hmm.
If your employer does well, you do well. But also, we all live in this area. We're going to come here if we need health care, and we want, to obviously have that access. So I've been doing a lot of that, but then also just trying to kind of represent the hospital in different areas. Whenever I go to talk, I've done a presentation in all 50 states, which I'm very proud of. I did that before I was 50. And I always have pictures of St. Elizabeth and tell them where I work at and where I'm from, and very proud of that. And pardon me, I try to just represent the hospital at events and things like that, because St. Elizabeth very much is ingratiated in the community of Northern Kentucky, and they want to give back as well. So we do a lot of things for the community, and the community does a lot of things for us. I think it's a great relationship. I remember working here 30 years ago when they said, if you're really sick, go over the river, go to Good Sam or go to Christ.
Oh,
yeah. They did. And because we didn't have open heart surgery here, we didn't have a lot of those things, probably more like 35, 38 years ago. And so we have all of those things here now, that there's no reason to not go over the river. And one thing we're working on now is a regional cancer care center, which would be state of the art for this area, where we have access to clinical trials, precision medicine. You hear sometimes about a person that has cancer and they're not doing well and they're trying to get them into a study. Mm-hmm. We would have a lot more access to that here, where patients would not have to go to like Sloan Kettering in New York or MD Anderson in Houston. We would have that right here. So that's one of the
How
big.
How close are you to that?
Within the next 5 years.
Oh, that's
yeah.
great.
So actually, it may be much sooner than that. So it is proceeding at record pace, but in a very good way. Mm-hmm. So which is nice. We're very proud of it.
Anything else you'd like to share?
Say who, me or you? Okay, because I've lost direction here. Okay, no, I'm
sure you're not speechless.
Oh, that was good. No, how could you tell? You know what? I'm very honored that you asked me to talk here. What I just tell people, I love life. I love people. I love meeting people. I love taking care of people. I love taking care of people who need me at the most desperate time. Like, I'm there for you, and if I can help that in any way, I will. And I like to be needed. I feel like I have a life of I truly mean this, a life of service. I'm here to serve people. I have many gifts, and I have been given a gift of gab, a gift of personality, or whatever you want to call it. And I just think that that's something that I share with people, and I love people. really try to give that out. And I think sometimes that, my faith is a big part of my life, and I just think if you can lose anything and everything. You can lose your family, you could lose your house, your money, your looks, whatever, but you always have that faith. And I respect what anybody's faith is, whatever it is, whatever their higher power is. But I think that having faith that I have in God, that I'm going to get through this, it's going to be okay, it's going to work out, is something that I really value and can't take it away. And second to that is my daughter, who's also a nurse too. Mm-hmm. She works in maternity, so she does very well, and is also. And she was in one of the episodes with me, but I reminded her I was a star. She's in the background. Okay, don't get between me and the camera. Yeah, I'll take you out, honey. Okay, I did. Oh, truly, she might have tried that. Yeah, but no, I truly feel that way. Faith and family, and I've just had lifelong friends, met so many great people working in the emergency room, and it's...
And really your whole career has been in this area.
Yeah,
where
right.
You grew up.
20 miles of where I've lived my whole life. Yeah, the whole time. So, but I've been a lot of places, but yeah. I love this area. Yes.
Home base.
Yes.
And you know so many people.
Yes.
Here.
Yes.
And touch so many people.
Well, thank you. I hope so. So even with a needle, I still touch them. So,
maybe more intimately than...
Thank you. I hope you continue these interviews after this, okay? Or are you going to turn it in, Barbara Walters, or what? Are you going to retire? No, thank you. You're wonderful, and you're such a good dancer, and you're also, you just exude just like, I think, just great health and physique and everything. I just always like that
That's
about you.
That's why whenever you see me, you say, I see you've let yourself go.
Yeah, I do. I'm like, you're porking out there, Jeezle. Suck in a little, Bonita. Jeezle, gosh.
It's always the same line.
Okay, I have a new one April 11th, okay?
Okay,
I will.
I'll look forward to that.
Okay, you betcha, baby. All right, thank you.
Thank you.